Alright, so Havoc was reintroduced to the newest timeline of Mortal Kombat as two separate entities. In one respect, he's Daru. In the main timeline, it's been remade by Liu Kang. And in the post-credit scene, there is a Titan Havoc who I still don't know why he's around or what he's doing. I'm sure that'll probably get explained in some type of story DLC, I hope. But considering that Havoc is reintroduced as a character and in the timeline, or at least the story, he's in two different incarnations, there was still something that's glaringly absent from Havoc as a character in the game, and that's because we have the yin and we don't have the yang. Enter Hotaru. We have the leader of the Chaos Realm in Mortal Kombat 1 with absolutely no mention of the leader of the Order Realm, and the character was made to be the exact opposite of Havoc, which is why it's still amazing to me that they put Havoc in the game and didn't even think about Hotaru. So, based upon a recommendation that I received recently, I'm actually doing a redesign here today of Hotaru from Mortal Kombat Deception. Now, being honest, I think Hotaru actually has a really interesting sort of backstory. I don't think they leaned in enough on him basically being a cop over an overly strict realm of Order Realm. Considering how outrageous and wild of a character that Havoc is by nature, I just felt like there was so much more that could have been done with Hotaru, but he was actually pretty mid in Mortal Kombat Deception just because of just not really a lot being there with the character, which is the story of a lot of 3D era characters that are not really expounded upon after that era. And in Mortal Kombat's 9, X, and 11, which is the new NetherRealm version of Mortal Kombat games, or the NetherRealm era, I should say, we didn't get many 3D era characters outside of maybe Tanya, Kenshi, Quan Chi, and maybe Shinnok. There's not a lot of 3D representation in the new game, so I'm glad that Mortal Kombat 1 took that approach, but I felt like they still missed out on a lot of characters. Hence why I'm doing redesigns like these. That being said, I wish there was a way to do something with Hotaru's moveset, because I feel like that's another reason why the character is so dismissed. He looks way cooler than he actually plays like, and hopefully if he's ever brought back in the future, that can be rectified as well. But I'm not here to worry about his moveset, I'm here to worry about his actual character design. Now this is a tough one because he has a pretty unique looking character design to begin with, and he's a really cool looking character, so trying to do a redesign is going to be challenging as hell, I'm not about to lie. But I feel like I can pull it off, at least I'm going to give it the old college try, so without further ado, here we go. Alright, so starting off with, I knew right off the bat I was only going to give Hotaru a very simple pose for this design, simply because I still wanted to keep the two flags on his back. I didn't want to make them as large as his Deception design, but I did want to keep the flags nonetheless. And just for the sake of the size of this picture, I didn't want to make them overly large to begin with, but I still wanted them there, so I kind of wanted just a simple pose so I could have him and the flags in the back. So just thinking in terms of limbs, 2 arms, 2 legs, and then 2 flags, it was going to be a lot. So I got a real simple base pose put in. Then from there, I started working on his hairstyle. Hotaru always had a high ponytail, very simplistic sort of look hair-wise, just the white hair and a high ponytail, but I sort of got an influence from a old 1990s or at least late 90s looking Triple H, if anybody's a wrestling fan that watches this. So that was sort of the hairstyle that I ran with when I first started designing the character. Then from there, I was trying to think of different ways that I could apply his armor. I didn't want his body to be entirely covered as it was in the original Mortal Kombat Deception design, but I still wanted him to have a ton of armor, at least covering his upper body. I just wanted a bunch of metal pieces to his clothes, but I felt like I needed to worry about that in the coloring stage. As far as actually designing him, it was a matter of picking out where I wanted actual armor pieces and where I didn't. And so I thought about I was just going to give him an undershirt and just leave parts of his actual arms exposed, but not much. I still wanted them kind of covered. So I gave him, for no reason to be quite honest, a wrap around the armor on his sort of ribs and whatnot. Then I gave an armor piece on his gloves and just straps holding those together. And you guys know me already. It's asymmetry time, so I gave him a small shoulder shield over his right arm and left the left one exposed. Don't mind me, exposed, but I left almost the sleeve from his undershirt. I left one side of the sleeve longer than the other one, It was the weirdest idea or logic behind using asymmetry in a design that I think I've done, because it doesn't make sense for him to have one sleeve and not the other, and then one shield on one side and not the other one. But it made the design look way more interesting, which is really the focal point. It's like, how do I redesign Hotaru in a way that looks true to the character while unique enough to where I'm not necessarily redesigning the same look twice? And I didn't want to go too extreme to make him look radically different, because I've seen some designs like that, or at least some AI artwork online, to where I know people have sort of done that as well. I shouldn't say people, I guess that would be the computers, wouldn't it? In any event, that was the actual design phase from there. Then after finishing that and going in and doing the line art, it was on to actually coloring this man, which created a problem immediately. Because I wanted him to still retain the green and gold design from old. I didn't want him to look too different, just simply because Havoc looks pretty similar. They made some design choices that I really don't like his hair, but for the most part, Havoc looks close to classic Havoc. He just doesn't look as cool as he did before. But Hotaru, I sort of wanted to kind of keep him still looking classic as well. Like I said, slight changes here and there. So I still kept the green and yellow look, but I still wanted, like the undershirt and the pants, I was going to try leaving that green, making it blue. I think I went back and forth between making his pants blue and green on numerous occasions while painting this design. So if you see a switch at any point between his pants, just know that was me just overthinking things and backtracking. Like I said, I did that quite a few times in making this character design. And then it was going in and doing the actual design on his flags. Now, I didn't make the tears and whatnot in his flags simply because for it to be Order Realm, I would assume that Hotaru would always have like pristine, clean flags at all times, at least freshly made ones. Like I couldn't imagine him walking around with damaged clothes all the time. I would imagine he would constantly get them refixed and cleaned up. I don't know, this is just my mind assuming things, so I didn't put the tears in his flags. But because the original design had tears in his flags, I don't know what the kanji on the flag actually reads, because you can't see the full thing. So I'm not sure if what is written on the flags is what's supposed to be there or not. I'm sure someone will explain to me if they know what it's supposed to be. Probably a question that I should have asked before even doing this design, but I couldn't even find out what it said online. And I went through a lot of sites trying to look and see what his flags say. I got nothing. So that was the best that it was going to be as far as that's concerned. Now, once I got the coloring done, I started the shading. Shading was actually really easy. As long as I understood that my light source was coming from the left side, it's always really easy doing like metallic or shiny pieces of clothes, at least for just getting in the shadow phase. That's always very easy to do for me, because you have a lot of leeway when it comes to where the shadows and the highlights are sort of bouncing off from. So doing the shadows was extremely easy. The highlights was a little bit more complicated, and because I had so many metal pieces on the design, I didn't want him to necessarily look washed out. So I did numerous passes on his highlights. So it was almost two different light shades of green. And then after making that pass, I came back and did another one with specular highlights. So I used the white and came back over top of that one and finished the remaining piece of the design. And then it was on to just the final details, like the little gold pieces in the design, getting that colored up, and then going ahead and getting the highlights in on this pieces of armor, his forehead, stuff like that, small details in and getting them cleaned up. And this was the finished product. So this is my MK1 Hotaru. Like I said, Hotaru originally had a really cool design, so I had a lot to try to live up to in doing a redesign for MK1 essentially. And while I like doing like the real minimalistic, sort of simplistic, I shouldn't say minimalistic, but the simplistic MK1 looking designs, there's nothing simplistic at all about Hotaru's design. So this was going to get pretty complicated in spots no matter what I did. So I would really appreciate your guys' feedback in the comments below. Let me know what you thought. Also, if you like my art content, and I have a lot of it on this channel, go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't. And you all have a good one, and I'm out.